Hello and welcome to Steph on Skills powered by Enginuity. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be chatting to our guest live from Herning, where EuroSkills is currently taking place. Now, for those of you who don't know this event, it's part of EuroSkills, and I like to describe it as the Olympics for skills. So not only do they have this incredible opening ceremony where all of the teams competing, come out with their flags to all kinds of different events and dancing and singing and everything else in between, they then go in to compete in this incredible competition. So it's thousands of vocational learners competing against each other, putting their trades to the test. So it's everything from plastering, cabinet making, you've got electronics, hairdressing, welding, graphic design, cooking, health and social care. I could go on, floristry, jewelry making. The list is endless. What's fascinating about this is a competition with young people showing, displaying their incredible skills that are vital to our economy. And, they're skills we talk about so much on this podcast as being important for our future prosperity. And cheering them on out there is Baroness Jacqui Smith. Now, she is the Minister for Skills and has had a very high profile career in politics over the years. It includes being the first female Home Secretary. Baroness Smith is also a former teacher. So she's someone who I think, having known her for a few years now, is someone who gets the importance of skills and education. And yet she's out there as the Minister for Skills, cheering on Team UK and getting a sense of what exactly happens at an event like EuroSkills and WorldSkills. Baroness Smith, so lovely to see you. Tell us what it's like out there in Herning. What's the atmosphere like? How's Team UK? How's it all going?
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant, Steph. Look, I had a really early start this morning and I was thinking, oh dear, am I going to be a bit tired? But there is so much energy here that walking around the competition, seeing the international competitors, but seeing our UK competitors doing such a brilliant job in a massive different range of skills, and the quality of what is being produced is just, it would invigorate you, whoever you were and whatever you were interested in. But given that you and I are both really, really interested in skills, you will know that it is just a fantastic showcase of the very, very best in skills across an enormous range of things. I don't think I had realised that I was going to see everything from what's just behind me, which is floristry, through to electrical installation, through to, I've learnt a lot about refrigeration today from one of the people who's an ambassador for WorldSkills and who'd previously been done really, really well. I've seen hairdressing, I've seen construction, I've seen landscape gardening, I've seen graphic design. The range of skills is amazing, and the talent and the quality is just, really inspirational.
Yeah, I think that's what's really hard to get across to people. Someone who's been out to a couple of the WorldSkills competitions. This is not like people, if let's say it's bricklaying, it's not them just building a wall. They'll be building like Christ the Redeemer out of bricks or, doing really incredible things. And it is really, I often refer to it as like the Skills Olympics, because that's what it feels like. The dedication, the years of training that's gone into this, and then the actual atmosphere there of people competing in these like kind of pens around these big venues. It is quite incredible. It's hard to get that across to people who haven't been, isn't it?
It really is, and you're absolutely right. What they've done really well here is that they've had lots of school trips as well from the Danish schools around the competition. And we were just talking about what a fantastic message that is sending to the children and young people who are coming through about the enormous range of skills and just the sheer quality of what's being produced here. It's sending out a really important message to young people.
Rumour has it that you've done a bit of welding in your time, so did you offer them any tips while you were there?
Look, I went to Japan and Malaysia earlier on just at the beginning of the recess, sort of end of July, and one of the reasons I went there was to talk about the way in which we can work internationally with partners on skills and technical education, because there's a massive opportunity for us there. So I went to visit the Welding Institute in just outside Kuala Lumpur, and this is a British company, and they're in Malaysia doing this. They do a whole range of different welding, including I saw welding that happens underwater for energy, wind farms, all that type of stuff. There's a massive demand for welding, and it's going to be really important for the economy, for the things that we need to see developing, particularly around green energy. But they did, you're right, Steph, offer me the opportunity to have a go at welding. I would say, had it been a competition, I would not have been a medal winner. But
there's time yet.
there would need to be quite a lot of time, I think. But no, that was a fantastic opportunity as well. But it just shows me, I think it's interesting, isn't it? You think about something like welding, and you think, oh well, that's quite sort of, is that a bit old school and a bit traditional? But of course, actually it is used in all of those things that I was talking about, fundamental for engineering. The defence industry, for example, we've just this last weekend announced a big defence industrial strategy and a big package of skills development for defence. That will be one of the skills that will be really important.
Yeah, and before we get on to the kind of specifics about how important skills are for the economy, as we've said, we've got this brilliant Team UK there, a 19-strong team representing us, people who've worked really, really hard to get there. What do you want to say to them? Like, why are you there? What's the message?
Look, I'm there to celebrate. I'm here to celebrate them and to celebrate what they're saying about real excellence in skills. They are representing our country. They're inspiring other people to think about the opportunities in skills, and they're just really creating an enormous buzz around what is possible in relation to skills. And the brilliant thing about the people that compete in World Skills is that I've met several young people who previously were competitors, and now they are sharing the message about what World Skills is all about, and and acting as enormously important ambassadors as well.
Yeah, there's a real legacy, isn't there, that follows through on this. Now, the thing, I was really pleased to hear you were going out there as the Minister for Skills, because I'll be honest, for a long time it's been really hard to engage politicians and engage the media in this. I speak as someone obviously in the media, but even for me, it took a lot of convincing to get, media people to talk about it on the telly and things like that. Why do you think that is? Why is it so hard to, get that recognition and more coverage for these brilliant people who are doing this vocational training?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that, first of all, on this, as you say, the Olympics, the Sport Olympics would be all over our TV screens. This is like the Skills Olympics. It's actually really fun and really interesting to look at. So the fact that there isn't more of an opportunity for people to see it, I think, is a shame. The other thing, I think, in terms of media is you're really quite unusual, Steph, aren't you? Because you've been through that apprenticeship route. You spend a lot of time talking about it. Before I had this job, when we were doing other things together, you would often be the one that was speaking up for skills and challenging people about it. And of course, most people in the media didn't come through that skills route, just as most people in politics and in government, whether civil servants or ministers, also didn't come through that route. So just getting, I don't think people are deliberately not prioritising talking about skills, but it's just not part of their experience of their education system. So that's why things like this, in just demonstrating how important and exciting it is, could be really crucial in getting that emphasis and that profile up.
Do you think that's changing? That, you mentioned there about there not being that, I guess, the diversity of educational background in media and politics. So I remember, Robert Halfon, great advocate for skills. And then, we were like, put your money where your mouth is, and took on apprentices. And I know we are seeing more of that in politics now. Do you think things are improving? Is it getting more diverse? Because I think one of my frustrations every time I spoke to the Department for Education in the past, with all the various different education secretaries of all flavours, was the fact that there weren't many of them who'd ever come through that route. So it felt like there was a bit of lip service paid to it, but not a genuine understanding. Is that changing?
Yeah, look, I think, to be fair, of course, to Gillian Keegan, I think her working with Robert Halfon in the last government, they did put a focus onto skills in a way that I'm not sure education secretaries had done before. This is my third time in the Department for Education, and the previous two times I was in the schools part, and if I'm honest, I think there wasn't the focus then on skills, further education, that part of the education system. But one of the reasons why I took this job when the Prime Minister asked me to do it last 14 months ago, giving up all of the fun things that I was doing with you and others, was he said, look, we need to get skills absolutely at the centre of what we're doing as a government, because it's the right thing to do to grow the economy. It's the right thing to do to make sure that people have got opportunities to develop throughout their lives, to get really good jobs and to find those routes into it. And to be fair to the Prime Minister, in his first conference speech just under a year ago, he talked about skills in his Prime Minister's speech. That, I think, is the first time that I had heard a Prime Minister, any Prime Minister, talk about skills. And he was talking about setting up Skills England and increasing the focus of apprenticeships back onto younger people. But actually, the very fact that I'm saying that, I think, makes your point that it hasn't been something that it's always been easy to get traction on in government.
Yeah, so then tell me, looking at recent events, obviously there's been this reshuffle, and you as Minister for Skills have now, well, I think you've got two bosses, haven't you, really? Because you've got Bridget Phillipson, who's obviously the Education Secretary, and Pat McFadden, who is now head of the Department for Work and Pensions. What's this all about? What difference is it going to make? Why have we got skills moving? What is a normal member of the public going to see that's different, and why this change?
Yeah, well, I think what it's about is absolutely saying that skills are really crucial for everything that we need to do across government. Now, I have been saying that for the last year. I've been making the case that we can't grow the economy, we can't rebuild the NHS, we can't shift to green energy, we can't build the homes that we've promised unless we can grow skills. And I've had some success in getting other departments to recognise that, the Chancellor to recognise it through some of the skills packages that we've already invested in. But I think the argument that Pat McFadden now makes is that, look, we need skills even more at the centre of what we're doing in government. We need the link up between the skills that people can develop and the job opportunities that will be available to them. That's why putting skills in the Department of Work and Pensions makes sense. We've got nearly 1 million young people who have not got a job or a training place or a continuing in education. That's a hideous waste of talent, and that's a whole load of young people who at that crucial point in their life are basically, falling out of the system with nothing to help them to develop. And that's something else where actually education and the Department of Work and Pensions working together for those young people can make a real difference. So, I genuinely, I think this is about really making sure that we're putting, as a government, some real oomph behind that whole area of skills, from young people through to people that need to reskill during the course of their working lives in order to get new jobs or to develop the skills that are necessary in the sort of world we live in now, where things are changing so quickly. I think it's an opportunity.
Yeah, so I understand this right then. Is this the skills bit? Because obviously you wear a couple of hats, don't you? Because you're also the Minister for Women and Diversity. So is that what bit is in education and what bit is in work and pensions?
Yeah. So on the whole, I mean, some of this we're still working through, but essentially what we're saying is, that noise means that I think a competition has just finished, or the competition bit for the day. So
you've turned into a live reporter. I like this.
I learnt everything I know from you, Steph. So to go back, it wasn't just me trying to avoid that question about how are we reorganising government. I promise you. So essentially, what will be happening is that bit of skills that relates to people over the age of 19. Apprenticeship budget, adult skills funding, the work that we're doing with mayors, that will be essentially in the Department of Work and Pensions, and that's where you can make the real join-ups through into employment support, make sure it's in the job centre, make sure employers are being really engaged in what you're doing with skills. But of course, you can't deliver that without the work that happens in further education, higher education, in our universities, who are also, do important work in delivering key areas of skills. But that's the education system, and that will stay in the Department for Education. And I will be making sure that all of those links continue to be made, bringing them all together and getting the best out of everything that we can do in DWP and everything that we can do in the education system as well.
Okie dokie, because I'll be honest, when it was announced, although I understood that it sounded like by moving skills to work and pensions, it was prioritising it more as a government issue, I did worry, and I had a conversation with Robert Peston about this, my worry was if you were separating it from education, it might perpetuate that idea that education is purely about academics and not vocation. Are you going to make sure that doesn't happen? Because that's my big beef in life, that view that education is very much about, this one route of academics, and that's the best one. And actually, if you're not so good, you do the vocational route. And it drives me mad when we all know that actually vocational skills are often the ones that are most desired in employment. Yeah,
well, they're most desired. Increasingly, some of the best apprenticeships are far more competitive to get onto than getting into even, one of the top universities. You're absolutely right about that, Steph. And I have spent quite a lot of the time that I've been doing this job saying, first of all, our further education colleges, which are delivering a lot of that vocational technical education, are not getting the priority or the money that they deserve. And secondly, I've been saying higher education in the broadest sense also has to be engaged in skills. They are already delivering a lot of skills, but we need our universities to be working more closely with employers. We need to recognise that if it comes to to engineering or to digital, for example, what we've found is that quite a few of those skills will actually be delivered in higher education as well. So I am absolutely determined. I see the potential danger that you're spelling out here, but the fact that I am a joint minister, it hasn't simply been let's shift this area of responsibility across to this other department, let them go away and get on with it. The fact that I'm there is, I think, a really important message about how you get the extra you can get from linking it into employment and the labour market. But we keep that synergy, and we keep making the case, which, as you say, which is you've got to be clear throughout the whole of the education system that there are fantastic opportunities in areas, in apprenticeships, in T-levels, for example, being delivered in our colleges, in other vocational qualifications linked to the sorts of occupations that are growing and that we really need to see. Those are going to lead you to really good jobs, and we've got to make sure that people understand it and that there's enough of that training out there for people.
Yeah. So you mentioned further education colleges, and again, I am a massive fan of the FE sector. Recently in Newcastle City College, I was in Middlesbrough College not that long ago. They're so impressive. The connections they have with local industry, even the kind of the atmosphere there. It's very workplace, but yet fun, not too serious, but it is in the sense of often the young people might be in uniforms if they've got a connection, or branded tops or whatever if they've got a connection to a business or an apprenticeship. There'll be kit that's supported by industry. But as you've mentioned, there's been a woeful lack of funding for FE, and it is much more expensive to put on FE courses than it is pure academic ones. If you're doing maths A level versus, I don't know, electronics, the cost difference to put on those courses is huge. So is FE going to get more money? And I know you're not going to be able to tell me yes and on this date and all that jazz, because we all know there's a big budget coming up in autumn, etc., there's a big black hole, blah blah blah. But do you see a day when FE will get more money, and better funding for this?
Well, what I can say is that we've already in this year provided additional money for FE, and of course we had the spending review, and as part of the spending review we have managed to get out of the Treasury an additional £1.2 billion a year for skills. So we're already beginning to see some of that money. But you're right as well that it needs investment. It needs as well support for those people who work within FE, because on the whole you've got higher vacancy rates in FE than you've got in other parts of let's say the 16 to 19 education system or in schools. So that's why when we have found money for things like the construction skills package, where the Chancellor's found £625 million, we will be spending it on, part of it will be being spent, for example, on developing new technical excellence colleges. Now these are existing FE colleges where we're going to put in some extra investment, and we're going to say you are going to really work with other colleges, but you're going to identify what really, really excellent skills provision is by that partnership with employers and business that you were talking about, by bringing in new people to work, by having the sort of equipment that you were talking about. That as well, I think, helps to raise the prestige, the status, the recognition of what's going on in FE colleges. And it's something we're going to develop for the defence sector. We talked about this weekend. It's something that we're going to develop in engineering, for example. All of that is about more investment into FE, but it's also about just the prestige, the status, the profile of what's happening in those colleges as well.
Yeah, I'm conscious of your time. I just a couple more minutes before I let you go back out and try your hand at some other things competing for that. But just you touched on something there I wanted to mention as well around the teachers, the trainers, the supervisors, the leaders in these colleges, and there is a problem in that there are not enough of them.
Yes.
Are you thinking as government about what you can do to work with businesses, to get more people in from businesses to go into teaching, whether that might be something that is like a part-time thing, or, just it feels like you're either a teacher or you're in industry or whatever else your vocation is. Can should we be looking at marrying the two? Because it feels like that would be, and there'd be a lot of people in business who get a lot out of teaching. These great learners who I have seen more often than not are really interested in what they're doing, and very few of them are people who don't care because they wouldn't be there if they didn't at that age. So are you thinking about things like that as well, marrying business and FE and training courses so that there are more people teaching and training?
Yeah, absolutely we are. So a specific bit of that 600 million, for example, in the construction industry that we've managed to get out of Rachel Reeves, is on precisely that. So it's on how can we have the sorts of schemes that you're talking about where perhaps somebody is working in industry, but then 2 days a week they are in the college, giving that absolutely up-to-date sort of knowledge that they've got from being in the industry back to students. We've got our Taking Teaching Further campaign as well, which is absolutely about saying to people, look, as you say, you might want to give something back. You might think there's something, I would like to be able to pass on my skills to the next generation. This is the route through which you can exactly combine working in the industry and actually work teaching in FE as well. I'm really, really keen that we do that, and we'll want to say more about it when we publish our policy document, our white paper about skills post-16.
Yeah, and it's just worth me mentioning, I know you know this, but just for people who are listening or watching this, because I know a bit about the campaign you're doing around FE teaching, is you don't have to do qualifications in teaching in order to be able to do it. There's lots of routes into this. Exactly. So it's not like you've got to, start again in education yourself in order to become an educator. So I think it's just worth pointing that out. If you're somebody who's listening thinking, I'd quite like to do that, then definitely go and find out more about it. Just on that point, one other thing on it before I move to the final bit, which is just small businesses. It's not easy, but it's easier for big businesses to be able to provide apprenticeships, to be able to spare people to go into colleges and teach and contribute machinery. But, often these big businesses are supported by a supply chain of smaller businesses who are in competition with the big businesses for apprentices and everything else, but also don't often have the time or resources to be able to have those connections that they, I would say, need with FE and with the vocational sector. So is there going to be any help for small businesses out there too?
Well, first of all, if you're a small business, you will receive 95% or more of the cost of taking on an apprentice from the proceeds basically of the apprenticeship levy. Secondly, if you take on an apprentice up to the age of 25, you won't be paying national insurance contributions for them. Thirdly, what you'll quite often get is somebody who will bring new skills. As they're learning, they'll also be bringing new skills into the business to enable your business to develop as well. But I am very aware, because small businesses often say it to me, I'm not sure small businesses are always clear that that is an opportunity for them, because, of course they're focused on, the business, keeping it on the road, not doing the research necessary to know that those opportunities are available to them. So I'm really keen to think about what more we can do to get that message out to small businesses. In the construction industry, there are schemes that we're now developing that will support small businesses to be able to take on apprentices, but we've got to get that message out more widely, and I'm going to think a lot about how we can go about doing that.
And the other important thing to mention in all of this is, obviously you're at the event EuroSkills, which is about young people in vocational training, but there's a big area for reskilling in all of this. Absolutely. Particularly, as AI, more AI tech comes in and does some of the jobs that people might end up being made redundant in. What are you doing around reskilling? That's different. That's going to have impact, because reskilling has always been an issue. As old industries, start to die off, you need to have those people knowing and feeling like they are equipped to go into other jobs. And I think there's often a big problem with people understanding their skills are transferable. Everyone is often quite siloed in their view of their careers. So what are you doing that's different around making sure we don't have this kind of dearth of people who are left disengaged and, essentially without work?
Yeah, well, of course, you can do an apprenticeship when you're older, but quite often that actually what you need is something a bit shorter and sharper than an apprenticeship, which is why we're putting some extra money into the skills boot camps that are happening all around the country, where you might be doing 12, 16 weeks to upskill you in a particular area with the with the sort of guarantee of an interview at the end of it. We're also saying, up until this point, to take money from the apprenticeship levy, you had to spend it on a full apprenticeship. But from next year, we'll be beginning to support shorter parts of apprenticeships, basically, so that you could, either as an employer or as an adult that wanted to reskill, you could say, look, okay, I don't want to do a full apprenticeship, but I do want to do that bit of the apprenticeship that will enable me to understand what AI is meaning in my workplace, for example, or how there are new skills needed for me. Perhaps I'm a plumber or something that relate to green ways of new heat pump boilers or things like that. You don't need a whole apprenticeship, you need a short course to be able to do it. And we'll just be beginning to introduce that flexibility into the apprenticeship levy as we develop it into the growth and skills levy that will enable employers to do that. You're absolutely right that, in the world in which we live now, the idea that you would go into a job at the age of 16 or even 18 and stay in it, and it would be the same after even 10 years, let alone 40 years, that's just gone. So we've got a real responsibility to keep upskilling people throughout their lives.
Yeah, are you worried though that we're kind of not prepared for AI in the sense of, people's jobs going and them not having the time, or us just not being prepared enough in advance for these skills? Because I'm already seeing people, well qualified in their profession, whether it's like graphic design, that type of thing, where they're losing their jobs. Are you confident the government are on top of this? Because I honestly feel a bit worried, because I feel like artificial intelligence is going to be the next industrial revolution. But we're going to end up having this, it's often called Engel's pause, this time when there's lots of people who are left behind by AI because they don't have the skills, and we're not preparing ourselves enough ahead of time to be able to make sure they can benefit from it and not lose out in the short term.
So, I slightly missed the end of your question, Steph, because we've had another great big celebration you might be able to hear. But so, I think the point but I think I got the gist of your question, which is, are we worried about how that changes the workplace and people's jobs disappear? That is why we need to now be putting in place the ability for people to upskill in digital skills, in skills relating to AI. Even here at EuroSkills, I've been hearing about the really important work that EuroSkills UK are doing to get skills, to make sure that not only are we having brilliant competitions like this, but we're also getting that back into colleges again. And one of the areas where they're working, for example, with colleges and training people within FE is exactly in that area of AI, how you respond to that. So yes, it's a challenge because it is a major shift in the way in which we will work, but we're on it. We've announced, particularly through the Department of Science and Technology, additional funding for educating children in schools and for providing the opportunities for people, as I say, more generally to upskill in that.
So final question, are we going to be ready in time? Are we going to be ready in time with things like, you want to build 1.5 million homes within this parliament? We talked about AI and how that's changing, and you're saying it's important to start now, but is everyone going to be skilled enough in time for all these changes to happen, for you to build all these homes you want to build and everything else?
Well, this is the absolute challenge for me in my role, but actually for the government as a whole. That's why, without being overly party political, Steph, when we came into government, we did come into a system where there had not been the investment in skills that there needed to be. So we started that straight away. We've got, for example, in construction, as I've said, an additional £625 million. What we've also got is work alongside industry for them to be investing in skills, because we've also seen a big fall off in the amount of money that employers themselves are putting into training. We absolutely, it is a crucial challenge for the government and the country. I'm very up for it. The government is very up for it. We're putting a bit of money behind it, and we need everybody to be part of that real challenge to turn around the country, to grow the economy, and to provide those sorts of opportunities for the good jobs that we know are coming.
Yeah. So what does success look like? And that is my final question. What does success, what will make Baroness Jacqui Smith sit with a cup of tea or a glass of wine and go, yes, I think we delivered on that? What does it look like?
Well, look, at the moment, a third of job vacancies can't be filled because there are not the skilled people to fill them. And because of that, of course, what we see is we bring people in from overseas, exacerbating issues around immigration. So success for me will be when we can grow the economy at the speed we need to grow it at, and we can do that largely with people that we've been able to train and upskill in this country because of the investment and the real sort of national endeavour that we're putting into it.
Baroness Smith, thank you very much. What are you going to go and look at now then? What's on the agenda?
Well, tomorrow, I'm because it's a bit later on in the day, I am going to get a good night's sleep, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to be able to see some of the brilliant competitors here that I didn't get to see when I was going around this afternoon. So there are some bits of construction I'm going to look at. There's some catering and cooking that I didn't get to see today, and I'm just going to soak up the amazing sort of can-do, positive, brilliant atmosphere that there is here, and celebrate our Team UK and all of the success that they're going to be having.
Good. And do me one favour as well as cheering them on for me and screaming loudly as they complete their tasks and things. Make sure you go back to your lot in Westminster and shout about how brilliant these guys are, because I don't think enough people in there know about them. So you've got to do that for me as well.
I will do that, Steph. I will, as you say, shout about it and do something about it as well.
Thank you. Excellent. Right, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time. That's it from us on Steph on Skills, powered by Enginuity. Bye-bye.